medical care costs.
Right.
And she finally also broke up her marriage over it,
Mm-hmm.
and she finally had to move to Wisconsin, okay? Because she said she had looked over the whole country and said, I'm going to move to Wisconsin. I have another friend in North Carolina who couldn't get the care she needed when she became ventilator dependent, quadriplegic, and moved to Berkeley, where there was a great support network, because she could not get care that way. So how often is it that the states like South Carolina, and that's where we are, which is really bad for services, how often does that sort of state dumping and moving around? I think that probably happens quite a bit with people who are chronically ill or have chronically ill children, and you've probably heard about that.
Oh, definitely. Or I even hear stories of, people that just are healthy but can't get insurance, and so they have to find a state where they can get insurance and move there. We have people that stay in marriages or get married because of the need for health insurance, people that stay in jobs that they don't like for health insurance. It's crazy what happens in this country.
Yeah, and I wanted to move to be, when I get old, I wanted to do like everybody does and move like Greg did, who's old, and he moved close to his grandchildren. He came here because of his grandchildren.
Right.
And I'd like to move, where my grandchildren are, but I'm afraid to go to Texas. I don't know if I can afford to go to Texas. And that's the kind of, and see, how many people don't realize that South Carolina, Texas, we are losing people that could contribute in other ways because of the policy, because of the medical care policies here. So it actually would also be good for the economy, because of course then small businesses don't get started up and so on. If I move to Texas, I might start a little business when I'm older if I could afford it, but not if I don't move there.
Well, absolutely, and I actually testified before the National Commission for Fiscal Responsibility and Reform in the summer of 2010 and made the argument that our economy, really, if we want to fix our economy, it's fundamental that we fix health care, because our health care costs are growing much faster than our inflation rate, faster than our GDP. They're putting a real disadvantage on our businesses globally, but also preventing people from opening businesses. They're making small businesses go bankrupt. The families, because of the high cost of health insurance, don't have money to spend on things besides their basic necessities. So it would be a huge help to our economy if we were able to go to an improved Medicare for all. And actually, if we brought our health care costs in line with what other industrialized nations spend, we would not have a deficit at all.
I want to bring up something just real quickly that kind of relates to Occupy and healthcare in a real, very down-to-earth way. I think yesterday, maybe the day before, a fellow occupier posted something on Facebook and said, this is an occupier that we know. She's having some mental health issues in her family that are bankrupting her family, and she needs help. Please click this link, and if you can afford to, give her some money. And I thought to myself, holy smokes, this is what we are reduced to. People, I love it. So
begging. But that's what it is.
I agree.
I do it.
Brought down,
I would.
Brought down to having to beg to get health care for her family, and it's a mental health issue. Can you talk about mental health and how our Medicare system or medical system basically doesn't do much of anything for people who have mental challenges?
Yeah, that's a real problem in this country. Things like mental health, even dental. Our dental outcomes are very bad. Vision, these kind of basic things are often not covered by insurance, and so we have huge crises in this country of people who have mental health problems and could be productive members of our community, but are not able to get the treatment they need, and so they can't. It also puts our safety at risk when people are not able to get the treatment that they need. We have people that die from dental conditions because they can't get dental care.
Oh, wow.
I believe it can lead to heart attacks.
It's a very sad situation, but it doesn't have to be this way, and that's, the power of the Occupy movement is starting to change that. In the fall of last year, the Super Committee in Congress was actually poised to cut Social Security and Medicare, and we think it was largely because of the Occupy movement's pressure on the Super Committee that they didn't have the courage to make those cuts at this time. We have to be vigilant.
If you don't mind, I want to completely change directions for just a minute. You're a Facebook friend of mine, and your avatar or your picture on Facebook is Troy Davis.
Right.
When we started this program in September of last year, within 2 or 3 weeks, we were talking about Troy Davis. Why is he your avatar? Why is he your face on Facebook?
Right. Well, I've been doing kind of advocacy work for a while, and then over the last years have evolved into seeing that if we want to change things, we need to combine the movements for social and economic and environmental justice, and so started kind of learning about more of what's going on in this country, and was following Troy Davis's case. And the night that he was murdered, I watched that intently. Just couldn't believe that they would actually go through with it. There was no evidence to show that he was guilty, and so much evidence that his trial was not, was a mistrial, really. And so when he was murdered, I thought, I have to keep this picture here to remind me that these kinds of things are allowed to go on in our country, and to keep me fighting to change that, so that every person is treated equally under the law and has the basic things that they need to survive and be productive members of our society.
And for those who may not remember, Troy Davis was murdered by the state of Georgia.
Right. He was accused of killing a white police officer. Later, a number of the so-called witnesses recanted their stories, but really, there was no evidence to tie him to that murder, but he was put to death anyway.
And several jurors said that they would not have come to that conclusion if they'd known that this particular individual's testimony was not true, which is the person that recanted. So it would have made a difference in the outcome of the trial.
Yeah.
We are so grateful for you being on the show. Is there anything more that you wanted to share with our audience before we run off?
Well, I think that, I hope that people will get more involved with Occupy movement. This is going to be a long-term effort to transform the power in this country. We can do it very easily if we can. One of the major kind of foundations of that is shifting our economic power. So I really encourage people to learn more about things that they can do locally to shift that economic power through buying locally, through creating local currencies, moving your money to community banks or credit unions. You can learn more about this on a website that we put together called itsoureconomy.us.
Well, thank you. I like that. We're occupiers, and we're going to give our Occupy commercial pretty soon. We are not allowed to camp outside. We were told by the cops on day one, you better not, and we didn't, and we were fussing, and then we realized it was probably a good thing because we're still together. And people who got arrested got, sort of splintered and, almost ruined, but those of us who didn't actually get arrested or anything because we didn't break the law, we're still together and we're still working, and so that's good, and it turned out to be a blessing.
You don't have to camp to be an occupier.
That's
Anybody
right.
who believes in this movement for social justice is an occupier.
Thank you so much for talking to us. It's been a great thrill, and I'm just really thrilled to talk to you today, and thanks so much for coloring in, connecting the dots for us today.
Great. Thank you for having me on. It was a pleasure talking to you.